Hello everyone and welcome to the biology lecture series, and today we'll be discussing the NCERT questions, the NCERT exercise for the topic human reproduction. Alright, so let's first start with the fill in the blanks. So first one is what is the first question here? The first question is human reproduce. Okay, then you have to fill in this gap, and the options are humans reproduce asexually or sexually. So we now know that humans are the higher organism, they are quite complex organism, and they show which kind of reproduction? They show sexual reproduction. And we have already discussed the characteristic of the sexual reproduction in the theory sessions. Okay, so sexual reproduction, it involves formation of the gametes and it involves two parents. Clear? So humans, they reproduce by sexual reproduction, and the lower organisms or the simple organisms like bacteria, they reproduce by asexual reproduction. So what are the conditions for the sexual reproduction? First of all, two parents are required. Clear? So it is biparental, means two parents are required, and there is the production of the gametes. Production of the gametes, this is known as gametogenesis. Alright, and then what happens after the production of the gametes? The male's gamete, that is known as the sperm, it has to be transferred to the female genital tract, that is known as insemination. Okay, then after insemination, what happens? Fertilization. Fertilization is the fusion of the two gametes, the fusion of the male and the female gamete. Then what happens? There is the formation of the zygote. There is formation of zygote, and then the embryo is formed. Okay, and then embryo give rise to the new individual. Clear? So these are the steps that are involved in the sexual reproduction. Clear? Starting from here, production of the gamete, insemination, then fertilization, then formation of zygote, and then embryo is formed in the end, and embryo will give rise to new individual. Now, due to sexual reproduction, okay, it leads to the genetic variation. It leads to genetic variation. Why? Because the gametes, these are produced by meiosis. Gametes, they are produced by meiosis. Meiosis is known as the reductional division. Clear? That's why these gametes are always haploid. Clear? And during meiosis, what happens? Recombination and crossing over. During meiosis, recombination and crossing over takes place, means there is the exchange of the genetic material. There is the exchange of genetic material, which is the source of the genetic variation. Clear? So what should be the answer for this question? Humans reproduce sexually. Alright. Next question. Humans are oviparous, they are viviparous, or they are ovoviviparous. Clear? So again, you have to fill in the blanks. Three options have been given to you: oviparous, viviparous, and ovoviviparous. Clear? Now let's have a look at the answer. So humans are viviparous. Okay, humans are sexually reproducing and they are viviparous. Clear? So this line is written in the NCERT as it is. Humans are sexually reproducing and they are viviparous. Now let's have a look at what is oviparous, viviparous, and ovoviviparous. So these terms are used to describe different methods of reproduction in the animals. So there are three different methods of reproduction in the animals. First is oviparous. So these are the animals that lay eggs and have external development of their offsprings. So egg laying animals, these are known as oviparous. And eggs, they are laid outside the body. So the development of the offsprings will takes place outside the body. So external development of the offsprings takes place in oviparous animals. What are the example of oviparous animals? Examples include birds, reptiles, and many species of fish as well as the amphibians. So these are egg laying. All right, birds, they lay eggs. Reptiles, okay, they also lay eggs. Most of the reptiles. Then fishes, okay, fish eggs. Fish also lay eggs. Okay, and fish eggs are also eaten. Then amphibians, they also lay eggs. Amphibians are the animals that live on land as well as in the water. Clear? Like frog is an amphibian. Now in oviparous animals, the embryo develops outside the mother's body, usually within a protective eggshell. So embryo develops within the egg. Clear? Next, viviparous organisms. So humans are viviparous. So viviparous animals give birth to live young. Okay, they give birth to the young ones. You can simply write they give birth to the young ones. Okay, that have developed inside the mother's body. Now in these animals, the embryo receives nourishment directly from the mother through the placenta. Alright, so placenta is a tissue, okay, that is formed from two tissues. One is the tissue of the fetus, okay, and second is the uterine tissue. So both, they combine, they become interdigitated to form the placenta. Clear? Okay, so placenta, what is the function of the placenta? It provides nourishment to the developing embryo. It also acts as an endocrine tissue, so it secretes hormone also, and it also removes the toxic waste that are produced in the developing embryo. Clear? Now mammals, including humans, these are viviparous. So humans are also mammals. Alright, so mammals are generally viviparous, means they give birth to the young ones. Then ovoviviparous, third one. So ovoviviparous animals combine elements of both oviparity and viviparity. So they produce eggs that develop and hatch inside the mother's body. So they are producing egg. Alright, so this is seen in the oviparous organisms. But this egg, it hatch and develop inside the mother's body. So this is the feature of the viviparous organisms. But the offerings are born live, means they give birth to the young ones. Clear? So eggs, they are laid and they hatch inside the mother's body. They are not released. What is released from the body? The offerings, the young ones. Now the embryo receive their nourishment from the egg yolk. Examples include of oviparous organisms, some species of fishes, reptiles, and invertebrates, they exhibit ovoviviparity. Clear? Next question. Now next is again, fertilization is dash in human beings. Options are external and internal. Fertilization. What is fertilization? Fertilization is the fusion of the male and the female gamete. Alright? It is the fusion of male and female gamete. Clear? So in humans, the fertilization is this. What should be the answer here? The fertilization is internal in case of the humans. So what happens? The sperm is the motile, okay, and egg or the ovum, this is the non-motile. So both the gametes, they reach simultaneously in the ampulla of the fallopian tube. So what is the site of the fertilization? Site is the ampullary region. Okay, ampulla of the fallopian tube. Clear? Ampulla of the fallopian tube. This is the site of the fertilization. Clear? So what is the condition for the fertilization? That the sperm should reach at the ampullary region of the fallopian tube, and egg should be already present there. So both sperms and the ovum, they should simultaneously reach the ampullary region of the fallopian tube. All right, then only fertilization will take place. Clear? Now let's talk about external and internal fertilization. So external fertilization and internal fertilization refers to the process by which gametes, okay, male and the female gametes, sperm and the egg, they unite to form the zygote, which is a diploid structure, but they differ in where this union takes place. Okay, where this union takes place means inside the body or outside the body of the organism. So let's talk about external fertilization first. So this occurs outside the body of the organisms. Now typically both the eggs and the sperms are released into the environment, such as the water or the soil. So the gametes are released in the water or in the soil, and fertilization takes place outside the body of the organisms in water or in the soil. So the gametes meet, okay, outside the body of the organism in water or in the soil. Now this method is common in the aquatic animals such as frog, okay, like fishes, amphibians, and frog is an amphibian, and many invertebrates. Now organisms that practice external fertilization often releases a large number of the gametes to increase the chances of successful fertilization, as they are exposed to environmental hazards as well as the predators. Clear? So the gametes are released in the water or in the soil. Clear? So what happens? They are randomly distributed in the water or in the soil. Okay. So what happens? So these organisms, they release large number of gametes. If large number of gametes are released, then there are more chances of the successful fertilization. There are more chances that the sperm will meet or unite with the egg and fertilization will take place. Okay, and there are a lot of predators also in the environment, and there are a lot of environmental hazards also. Clear? That can lead to the you can say degeneration of the sperm or the egg cell. All right. Next is the internal fertilization. So in this process, the fusion of the sperm and the egg occurs inside the reproductive tract of one of the mating individual. So in humans, the fertilization takes place in the ampullary region of the fallopian tube. A fallopian tube is the part of the female reproductive system. Clear? So here the fertilization is taking place inside the organism. So this method is found in many terrestrial animals, okay, including most mammals. Humans are also mammals, some reptiles, birds, and certain fish and invertebrates. Now internal fertilization offers several advantages, such as the protection of the gametes. The gametes, they meet inside the body of the organisms, so they are well protected from the environmental hazards, because inside the human organism's body, okay, a particular environment is maintained that is suitable for the gametes. Okay, next is increased control over fertilization. Clear? And often a higher rate of successful fertilization, because both the sperm, they meet at a particular region, so there is a control also. Both the gametes, they reach at the same place at the same time, so there is a control also, and this leads to the higher rate of successful fertilization. And it also allows for the development of the specialized reproductive structures like copulatory organ or mating behavior. Clear? So specialized reproductive structures, copulatory organs like penis. Penis is a copulatory organ. Okay. So what happens? The penis is involved in the process of insemination, means transfer of the sperm into the female genital tract. And it also helps in the development of some special mating behaviors. These mating behaviors help in the successful fertilization or attract, or it helps to, okay, attract the mate. Now let's talk about next question. Next is the, again, fill in the blanks. Male and female gametes are, okay, they are talking about the ploidy level here. So they are diploid or they are haploid. So you know, formation of the male and female gamete, this is known as gametogenesis. All right. Gametogenesis. Gametogenesis is the formation of the gametes. Clear? Now, in males, gametogenesis is known as spermatogenesis, and in females, gametogenesis is known as oogenesis. Clear? So male gamete is known as the sperm and the female gamete is known as the ovum or the egg. All right, this is clear. So these gametes, they are produced through meiosis. They are produced through meiosis. So spermatogonia, it undergoes meiosis to give rise to haploid sperms, and the oogonial cell, they also undergo meiosis to give rise to haploid, okay, egg cell. Clear? Or ovum. So male and female gametes should be haploid, means they consist of only one chromosome set. Diploid is 2n, means they consist of 2 chromosome sets. Haploid is n, means they consist of 1 chromosome set. Now male and the female gametes are haploid. Let's talk about the male gamete. The male gamete, also known as the sperm, is a small motile cell produced by the male reproductive system. And where are the sperm produced? Sperms are produced in the seminiferous tubules, okay, which is present in the testes. Now sperm are typically produced in the testes through the process known as spermatogenesis. Clear? The formation of the sperm is known as the spermatogenesis. Now they are characterized by having a long tail. So sperm, how they are motile and how do they swim? Because of the tail. They have a long tail, which is also known as the flagellum, that's enable them to swim towards the egg for the fertilization. So sperms have to swim towards the egg because eggs are non-motile. Clear? And these sperms also consist of the mitochondria that generates ATP, which helps these sperms to swim, because the swimming requires energy and this energy is provided by the mitochondria. Now sperm contains genetic material, okay, means it contains haploid set of the chromosome. So it is haploid because it is being produced through meiosis. So that combines with the genetic material of the female gamete, which is also haploid, okay, during fertilization to form a diploid zygote. Zygote should be diploid. So what happens? One is the male gamete. It crosses with the female gamete. It fuses with the female gamete. Then what happens? A diploid zygote is formed. Okay, let's talk about the female gamete. The female gamete is also known as the egg or the ovum. So it is large and it is a non-motile cells produced by the female reproductive system. Now in most animals, including humans, eggs are produced in the ovaries. So ovary is the primary sex organ. Testes is the primary sex organ in males. Ovaries is the primary sex organ in the females. Okay. So this is produced through oogenesis. These egg cell or the ovum, these are produced through oogenesis, which is taking place in the ovary. Now, unlike sperms, eggs are typically immobile, means they are non-motile, and contain a large amount of the cytoplasm, which provides nourishment for the developing embryo after the fertilization. Now, egg also contains genetic material, means it contains haploid set of chromosomes, means it is haploid because it is being produced through meiosis that combines with the genetic material of the sperm during the fertilization to form a diploid zygote. Alright, this is clear. Now let's move on to the next question. So next is zygote is dash. Zygote is diploid or haploid. Okay, we have already talked about in the previous question. Zygote is obviously it is formed after the fertilization, so it should be diploid. Let's have a look at the answer here. Zygote is a diploid structure. It is a unicellular diploid structure. Now, zygote is the initial cell formed when two gamete cell, typically the sperm cell, which is haploid, it fuses with the egg cell, which is again haploid. Now, it represents the beginning stage of new organisms development. The zygote is diploid, meaning it contains a complete set of chromosomes, okay, with half of the chromosomes contributed by each parent. So, zygote is diploid, means 2n. So, it contains complete set of chromosomes, means it is 2n. So, half of the chromosome is received from the male gamete and half of the chromosomes are received from the female gamete. Okay, or you can say 50% of the chromosomes are received from the male parent and 50% of the chromosomes are received from the female parent, and the zygote, it contains the complete sets of chromosome now. So it is diploid structure. Now what happens after the fertilization? The zygote undergoes a series of cell division through the process of mitosis. So zygote, when it is formed, it undergoes mitotic division. It undergoes successive mitotic divisions, forming a multicellular structure known as the embryo. Clear? Embryo development we have already discussed. So what happens? Zygote, it divides and redivides and it forms 2-celled, 4-cell, 8-cell and 16-celled blastomers. Now 18 to 16-cell blastomers, okay, the structure containing 18 to 16 blastomers, that is known as morula. Okay, so simply we can write like this: zygote, it divides mitotically and it forms the morula, and from the morula what is formed? The blastocyst. Blastocyst gets implanted in the uterine wall, in the endometrium of the uterus, and then from this the mature embryo develops. Clear? Now as the embryo continues to develop, it goes through various stages of growth and differentiation and eventually giving rise to the mature organisms. So this is how the development of the embryo is taking place. Briefly I have told you. Clear? Morula is a stage that contains 18 to 16 blastomers. Clear? Then blastocyst is formed by the division in the morula. Then what happens? Some blastomers, okay, present at the periphery, or they get arranged, or the blastomers present on the outer surface. Clear? That forms the trophoblast, and some of the blastomers which are present on the inner side, they form the inner cell mass. The inner cell mass differentiates into the embryo and the trophoblast gets implanted into the uterine wall. Clear? Now let's move on to the next. Again, we continue the answer here. Now in humans, for example, the zygote undergoes several rounds of cell division. What kind of cell division? Mitotic cell divisions as it travels down the fallopian tube. So you know fertilization takes place in the ampullary region of the fallopian tube. Okay. So the zygote undergoes multiple rounds of cell division as it travels through the isthmus region of the fallopian tube towards the uterus. Now by the time it reaches the uterus, it has developed into a hollow ball of cells known as the blastocyst. This I have already told you. Blastocyst then implant itself into the endometrium of the uterus, where it continues to develop and grow, and eventually form the fetus. A zygote is crucial in sexual reproduction as it contains the complete genetic information necessary for the development and the growth of the new organism. So zygote contains, okay, the complete set of chromosomes, half from the male gamete, another half from the female gamete. Clear? Now, next question. The process of release of ovum from the mature follicle is called Graafian follicle. You can say mature follicle. You can also call it as a Graafian follicle. Clear? So what happens? The Graafian follicle, it ruptures and then it releases the ovum, and this process is known as ovulation. And the remaining structure that is left, okay, that gets transformed into the corpus luteum. So the answer is ovulation. Now what is ovulation? Ovulation is a key process in the menstrual cycle of the female. So it is one of the stages of the menstrual cycle. Okay, ovulation takes place at the mid of the menstrual cycle at around 14 days. Clear? Particularly in the mammals, including the humans. So in female humans, all right, the menstruation cycle takes place. Now it refers to the release of the mature egg ovum. What is ovulation? Release of the ovum from the ovary. And ovulation typically occurs about midway, halfway through the menstrual cycle, which lasts an average of 28 days. So menstrual cycle, okay, what is the average duration of the one menstrual cycle? It is 28 days. And what is the halfway of it? 14 days. The ovulation occurs, okay, at around 14 days. Clear? Of the menstrual cycle, of the duration of the menstrual cycle. Now during the menstrual cycle, what happens? Various hormonal changes occurs that regulate the development and the release of the egg. Now the primary hormones involved in the ovulation are estrogen and the luteinizing hormones. So these two hormones are involved in the release of the ovum. Clear? So what happens? There is a LH surge. There is a significant increase in the luteinizing hormone. This is known as the LH surge. So this LH surge occurs just before the ovulation. Clear? Which are produced by the ovaries and the pituitary gland. So luteinizing hormone is released by the pituitary and estrogen is released by the follicles that are present in the ovaries. Clear? So LH is released by what? By the pituitary. And estrogen is released by the ovaries. So ovaries, all right, it is the primary sex organ and it releases this estrogen as well as progesterone also, all right, and it also helps in the formation of the ovum. Ovum is also formed within the ovary. Now let's talk about the menstrual cycle. What are the stages of the menstrual cycle? The first is the menstruation or the bleeding phase. So here what happens? There is the shedding of the endometrium, all right, and this results in the bleeding. Next is the follicular phase, also known as the proliferative phase. So in this what happens? The primary follicle, it matures into the, or it gets transformed into the Graafian follicle. So there is a maturation of the follicles during the follicular phase. So what happens at the beginning of the menstrual cycle? All right, several follicles, which are fluid-like sacs in the ovaries, they begin to mature under the influence of the follicle stimulating hormone. So what happens in this stage? The follicular stimulating hormone is released by the pituitary gland, and this follicle stimulating hormone, it stimulates the development of the follicles. It stimulates the development of the follicles. Okay, and the primary follicle it get transformed into the mature follicle, or you can say it get transformed into the Graafian follicle. Now each follicle contains an immature egg. So these consist of what? The oocyte. Oocyte is known as the immature egg. Okay, clear? And then the rupture of the mature follicle, which is known as the Graafian follicle, it releases the ovum, and that is known as the ovulation. So next phase is the ovulation. So what happens? One dominant follicle, which is known as the Graafian follicle. Okay, this one of the dominant follicle it continues to develop, by the other they degenerate. Now when the dominant follicle reaches the maturity, it releases the mature egg into the fallopian tube. Okay, in response to this LH surge. So I've already told you there is the rise in the level of the LH. This is known as LH surge. So this happens just before the ovulation. So LH, what is the role of LH? Release of the ovum. Release of the ovum. Now this release of the egg is known as ovulation. Now what happens? The rest of the structure. So what happens? Graafian follicle has been broken down and there is a release of the ovum, and the remaining structure gets transformed into the corpus luteum. So after ovulation, the empty follicle transforms into the structure called the corpus luteum. So corpus luteum is a temporary endocrine gland which secretes progesterone as well as the estrogen. Okay, so mainly progesterone is released. So the level of progesterone is very high during the luteal phase. Now these hormones helps to prepare the uterus for possible implantation of the fertilized egg. So what happens? Progesterone, also known as the pregnancy hormone, this helps to maintain the endometrium lining. This helps to maintain the endometrium lining, and this is very important for the possible implantation of the fertilized egg. Now, if the fertilization does not occur, then the corpus luteum will degenerate, it will break down, and if the corpus luteum is not present, it breaks down, then obviously the level of the hormone, estrogen and progesterone, this will decrease, and decrease in the level of the hormones. Due to this, what will happen? This thickness of the endometrium will be will be less. Okay, so these hormones, progesterone and estrogen, this helps to maintain the endometrium, the thickness of the endometrium. So if the level of the hormones are less, then what happen? The endometrium will be again, it will become thin, and there will be the shedding of the endometrium. All right, and this will result in the menstruation. So the next cycle will start. Clear? If there is no fertilization. Now next question. Ovulation is induced by a hormone called, this we have already discussed, which is the hormone that is involved in the ovulation. Okay, what should be the answer here? So luteinizing hormones is involved in the release of the ovum. So we've already discussed there is a LH surge just before the ovulation. All right, at around 14 days. So before 14 days. All right, clear? Just before the ovulation, because ovulation takes place at around 14 days. Now, luteinizing hormone is a hormone produced by the anterior pituitary gland. The pituitary gland secretes this luteinizing hormone. Okay, what is the pituitary gland? Pituitary gland is a pea-sized gland located at the base of the brain. Now, along with the follicle-stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone plays a crucial role in the regulation of the female menstrual cycle and the male reproductive system. So we have already talked about both of these hormones, follicle stimulating hormone as well as the luteinizing hormone. Now in females, what happens? The LH helps regulate the menstrual cycle as well as the ovulation. Clear? Now, around the midpoint of the menstrual cycle means around 14 days. Because the menstrual cycle is for 28 days, the LH surge triggers the ovulation, which is the release of the mature egg from the ovary. Now, after the ovulation, the LH stimulates the remaining ovarian follicle to develop into the corpus luteum. Alright, so what happens? The Graafian follicle ruptures and then it releases the ovum, and the remaining structure it gets transformed into the corpus luteum. Corpus luteum is a temporary endocrine gland and it produces large amount of progesterone and estrogen also. Some amount of estrogen is also released. So there is a high level of progesterone during the luteal phase. So these hormones help to prepare the uterus for possible implantation. How? By maintaining the endometrium. Now, if fertilization does not occur, the LH level will drop. Okay, the level of estrogen and the progesterone will also drop. Okay, so LH level drop first, leading to the breakdown of the corpus luteum. Okay, if the corpus luteum degenerates, the level of progesterone and estrogen will also drop, and this will lead to the bleeding, and the next cycle will start. This is clear? Now, what happens in the males? LH plays a key role in stimulating the production of the testosterone. Okay, LH. What is the role of the LH in the males? It helps in the production of the testosterone by the Leydig cells. So we have already discussed when we were studying about the male reproductive system, Leydig cells. Okay, these Leydig cells, also known as the interstitial cells, these cells are involved in the secretion of the testosterone, and this testosterone released from the Leydig cell, this is stimulated by the LH, luteinizing hormone, which is secreted from the pituitary gland. Now, testosterone is essential for the development of male reproductive tissues such as the testes and the prostate, as well as for the production of the sperms. So, testosterone is an androgen. It is a male sex hormone. Now, LH levels in the blood can be measured through a simple blood test and are often used in reproductive health assessments, now including infertility evaluations and diagnosis of certain disorders affecting the reproductive system, such as polycystic ovary syndrome and pituitary disorders. Alright, this is clear. Now, next question is, the fusion of the male and the female gamete is called. This is quite simple. This is straightforward. Okay, the fusion of the male and the female gamete means fusion of the sperm and the ovum. This is called what? Okay, let's have a look at the answer. Fusion of the male and the female gamete. This is known as fertilization. And in humans, the fertilization is internal. Fertilization, also known as conception. What is the another name of fertilization? Conception. So it is the process by which a sperm, it fuses with the egg cell or the ovum to form the new organism. So what is formed after the fusion of the two gametes? Zygote is formed, which then develops into the embryo. So zygote is formed, which is a diploid structure. Now this process is essential for the sexual reproduction in organisms that reproduce sexually. So we have already discussed about the characteristic of the sexual reproduction. The first was the two parents are involved, and then the formation of the two kinds of gamete, male and the female gamete, that fuses with each other to form the zygote. Okay, clear? Now here's a general overview of the fertilization, how the fertilization takes place. First is the transfer of the sperm into the female genital tract. This is known as insemination. The sperm cells produced in the testes. Okay, so they are produced in the seminiferous tubule of the testes. These are released during the ejaculation. Now they travel through the female reproductive tract aided by muscular contraction as well as the fluids. Okay, in search of an egg. Now in humans, this journey typically involves the sperm traveling through the cervix, then into the uterus, and then into the fallopian tube, where fertilization usually occurs. So fertilization takes place in the ampulla region of the fallopian tube, also known as the oviduct. So there are three regions of the fallopian tube. infundibulum, ampulla, and the isthmus. So both the male and the female gamete, they reach the ampulla where the fertilization takes place. Clear? So you can call this step as insemination also. Okay. Next step is the egg release. So what happens? The female ovary releases a mature egg during the ovulation. The egg is surrounded by protective layers, including the zona pellucida and corona radiata. And the third layer is the plasma membrane. Okay, so the outermost layer is the corona radiata, which is made of the follicular cells, and it protects the ovum. Zona pellucida is the layer which is present beneath the corona radiata. Okay, and then you have the innermost membrane, which is known as the plasma membrane. Okay, clear? Next is the fusion, means fertilization. Now, when the sperm reaches the vicinity of the egg, or when the sperm it reaches near to the egg, it must penetrate the protective layers. So it should penetrate the corona radiata and the zona pellucida. So what happens? The sperm consists of the acrosome, and the acrosome enzymes helps in the penetration of the ovum. The enzyme released by the sperm, okay, help it to penetrate these layers until it reaches the zona pellucida. Now the sperm then bind to the zona pellucida, triggering the acrosome reaction. So zona pellucida is involved in the acrosome reaction, and it is also involved in preventing the polyspermy. So acrosome reaction, this involves the release of the enzyme from the acrosome, a structure on the head of the sperm. Now these enzymes help the sperm to penetrate the zona pellucida and reach the egg surface. Once a single sperm successfully penetrates the egg's outer layer, the membrane of the sperm and the egg will fuse, and their genetic material, means with the chromosome, they will unite and they will form the zygote. So what happens? The nucleus of the sperm and the egg, they fuse with each other first. All right, and then a diploid structure is formed known as the zygote. Clear? Now, so zygote is formed. Now, the fusion of the genetic material from the sperm and the egg results in the formation of a diploid zygote, which consists of complete sets of chromosomes. Now, this zygote represents the beginning of the new organism's development. All right, next is the cell division. So, zygote undergoes mitotic cell division to form the blastocyst, which gets implanted into the uterine wall. So, there is a cell division after the fertilization. After fertilization, zygote is formed and it undergoes rapid mitotic cell division, and these divisions are known as the cleavage. Now, these divisions lead to the formation of a multicellular structure known as the embryo. All right. Now, as the embryo continues to develop, it undergoes various stages of growth and differentiation that we have already discussed, eventually forming the mature organism. Clear? Next question. Fertilization takes place in, what is the site of the fertilization? Let's have a look at the answer. Fertilization takes place in the ampulla of the oviduct. Oviduct, this is also known as the fallopian tube. Now, the zygote divides to form, next question is, zygote divides to form a dash which is implanted in the uterus. Clear? This also we have discussed. Zygote, it divides. All right. There is successive divisions and it forms 2-celled, 4-celled, 8-celled and 16-celled structure. Okay, these cells are known as blastomers, and 18 to 16 cell structure is known as the morula, and the morula further forms the blastocyst. So zygote divides to form the blastocyst, which is implanted in the endometrium of the uterus. So we've already discussed, this is the zygote. This divides mitotically to give rise to 2-cell, 4-cell, 8-cell and 16-cell structure, and these cells are known as the blastomers. Now what happens? 18 to 16 cell, okay, structure containing 18 to 16 blastomers. This is known as the morula. and morula will further divide, okay, to form the blastocyst. Now what happens in the blastocyst? The outer cells, these are known as the trophoblast. This forms the trophoblast. The outer blastomers, these form the trophoblast, and the inner blastomers, they form the inner cell mass which differentiate into the embryo. So this trophoblast, okay, this helps the blastocyst to attach to the endometrium. So this process is known as implantation. Clear? Next question. The structure which provides the vascular connection between fetus and the uterus. This is called, so the connection between the fetus and the uterus. So there is a vascular connection that provides nutrients, that releases hormones, that provides oxygen. Okay, and it also helps in the removal of the toxic and the waste material that are produced by the fetus. Clear? So let's have a look at the answer. Now the structure which provides the vascular connection between the fetus and the uterus, this is called the placenta. Clear? Okay. So let's have a look at the development of the placenta. The placenta is an essential organ that develops, okay, or it is an essential tissue that develops during the pregnancy in the mammals, including the humans. Now it plays a vital role in the facilitating the exchange of the nutrients, gases, as well as the waste product between the mother and the developing fetus. So let's study about the overview of the placenta and its function. So first let's have a look at the development. Now the placenta begins to develop shortly after the embryo implants into the lining of the uterus, or the blastocyst implants in the lining of the uterus. Now, where does the placenta originate? It originates from both the maternal and the fetal tissues. So placenta, okay, it is formed by both the maternal tissue, yani ki means the uterine tissue, and the fetal tissue, which are the chorionic villi. Okay, we've already discussed the trophoblast. Okay, from the trophoblast arise the finger-like projection that are known as chorionic villi, and this chorionic villi, it gets interdigitated with the uterine tissue, and the placenta is formed. Clear? Now the outer layer of the embryo known as the trophoblast. Okay, this give rise to the fetal portion. You can say embryo, or you can say the blastocyst. Blastocyst will be a better term. Again, the outer layer of the blastocyst known as the trophoblast, this give rise to the fetal portion of the placenta, all right, which is known as the chorionic villi. I've already told you, from the trophoblast, a finger-like projection arise that are known as chorionic villi, and this chorionic villi, this become interdigitated with the maternal portion. Maternal portion is the uterine tissue. Okay, the placenta consists of both of these tissue. Chorionic villi, this come from the developing fetus, and uterine tissue is the maternal tissue. So both of these combine to form the placenta. Okay, this is clear. Now, what is the structure? The placenta is a disc-shaped structure attached to the wall of the uterus. Now, it is connected to the fetus via the umbilical cord. All right, clear? So, placenta, which is a disc-shaped structure, clear? It is attached to the wall of the uterus and is connected to the fetus via the umbilical cord. So, whenever the baby is born, first of all, this umbilical cord is cut. Okay. This umbilical cord contains the blood vessels that carry the nutrients as well as the oxygenated blood to the fetus and remove the waste products also. The nitrogenous waste that are produced in the body. Now, the placenta contains fetal blood vessels surrounded by the specialized tissue that facilitate the exchange of the substance between the maternal and the fetal blood without direct mixing. So there is no direct mixing of the blood. Okay, but there is the exchange of the nutrients, gases, as well as there is the exchange of the or you can say there is the elimination of the toxic products that are produced by the fetus also. Clear? So this is how the placenta is formed, and we have seen the development of the placenta, and we have also seen the structure of the placenta. So it is a disc-shaped organ. Clear? Now, again, what is the function of the placenta? Let's talk about the function. So we have talked about the development of the placenta. We have talked about the structure of the placenta. Now let's talk about the function of the placenta. So the primary function of the placenta, is to supply the developing fetus. So fetus, it cannot, it cannot feed itself, but it requires nutrition for the development. Okay, because growth, it requires the nutrition. So this nutrition is provided by the provided through the placenta. Clear? So primary function of the placenta is to supply the developing fetus with the essential nutrients. Okay, so these nutrients are absorbed from the mother's blood. Okay, it also provides the oxygen, all right, to the developing fetus. And placenta is also endocrine tissues, means it secretes hormones. So what are endocrine glands? You must be knowing about the endocrine glands. These endocrine glands, they secrete the hormones. They are ductless gland. Clear? So placenta also, it releases hormones, from the mother's bloodstream. So essential nutrients, oxygen and hormones from the mother bloodstreams are provided to the developing fetus. Clear? Now, through diffusion and the active transport, substances such as glucose, amino acid, fatty acid, and oxygen. Usually oxygen is transported or exchanged, or you can say the gases are usually exchanged through the process known as diffusion. So through diffusion and through active transport. So diffusion, you already know about diffusion, the movement of these molecules from a region of higher concentration to lower concentration. And active transport, this requires energy, this requires ATP. Clear? Substances such as the glucose, which is the simplest form of carbohydrate, it's the 6-carbon sugar. Amino acids, so amino acids helps in the formation of the protein. So one amino acid, it combines with another amino acid, then amino acid 3, and then it forms the peptide, then it forms the polypeptide. Polypeptide are also known as the proteins. So amino acids, these are the building blocks of proteins. And what is formed here? A peptide bond is formed. Clear? Fatty acid, they combine with glycerol to form lipids. Clear? Whenever the lipids break down, lipids are known as fat, they release fatty acid and glycerol. So fatty acid, this will be involved in the formation of lipids. Amino acid will be involved in the formation of the proteins. So all of these substances, they pass from the maternal blood into the fetal blood without direct mixing of the blood. Now, while the waste product, the nitrogenous waste product that are produced by the fetus, because fetus is alive now, it is living, so it is doing a lot of metabolic activities. So that produces the waste materials, including the carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide, because it is respiring, during respiration, carbon dioxide is produced. Urea is the nitrogenous waste product. It is the nitrogenous waste product. What are the three nitrogenous waste products? They are urea, uric acid, and ammonia. So urea also, carbon dioxide also, these are the waste products, and they move from the fetal blood into the maternal bloodstream for disposal. Alright, this is clear. Now next is the hormone production. I've already told you, placenta, it acts as an endocrine tissue. So it releases hormone. Now the placenta also produces the hormones that help maintain the pregnancy, and it also helps to and also support the fetal development. It helps in the development of the fetus. Now these hormones include human chorionic gonadotrophin, which is also known as HCG, and this hormone helps to sustain the early stages of the pregnancy. And progesterone and estrogen are also released. Clear? Now these hormones, these regulate various aspects of the pregnancy. Like progesterone, this is known as the pregnancy hormone. Estrogen also helps to, what are the other function of estrogen? It helps to maintain the bone density also, and also helps to regulate the menstrual cycle. Progesterone, it helps to maintain the endometrium. Okay, one of the function of the progesterone is this. Another function of the progesterone is to in the development of the milk ducts. Okay, so progesterone helps to prepare for the lactation because it helps in the development, okay, of the milk ducts. Clear? It is not directly involved in the lactation, but it helps to prepare for the lactation. Clear? So progesterone and estrogen, which regulate the various aspects of the pregnancy, including the growth of the uterine lining. Okay, uterine lining means endometrium. Endometrium, and the suppression of the maternal immune response. It also helps to suppress the immune response. So sometimes the immune response can be generated against the fetus. Clear? So it also helps to suppress the maternal response against the maternal immune response against the fetus. Clear? So that's why placenta is an endocrine tissue, because it is secreting a lot of hormones. Clear? Progesterone and estrogen, these are steroid hormones. Clear? And the role of both of these hormones we have already discussed in the theory sessions. Next is the protection. Clear? Now, additionally, the placenta serves as a protective barrier, shielding the fetus from the harmful substances such as the drugs, toxins, as well as the pathogens that may be present in the mother's bloodstream. Alright, so another function of placenta is to provide protection to the developing fetus. So it protects the fetus, it shields the fetus, okay, and it acts as a protective barrier, and it shields the fetus from the harmful substances such as drugs, toxins, as well as the pathogens that can be present in the maternal blood. Clear? So overall, the placenta is a critical organ in the pregnancy, ensuring the well-being and the development of the fetus. Clear? So it is helping in the pregnancy also, and it is also ensuring the well-being and the development of the developing fetus by providing the nutrients, okay, oxygen, hormonal support, and it also helps in the elimination of the toxic materials that are produced by the fetus due to the metabolic activities. You know, one of the metabolic activity is the respiration. During respiration, what happens? The respiratory substrate such as carbohydrate, proteins, and fat, these are broken down in the presence of the oxygen. Okay, and what is released? Energy is released, and carbon dioxide is also released. So carbon dioxide is released as a byproduct of these metabolic activities. So the placenta also helps in the removal of this toxic waste that are produced in the fetus. One of the toxic waste is the urea, and another one is the carbon dioxide. Okay, and it also suppresses the maternal immune response against the fetus. So all of this helps in the protection of the fetus. Clear? And we have also seen that placenta also protects the fetus from the harmful substances that can be present in the maternal bloodstream, such as the drugs, toxins, as well as the pathogens. All right. So we'll end this session. Okay, and the rest of the question we'll solve and we'll discuss in the next lecture. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Thank you very much for listening.